This is Mr. Carl Helbig. Lew Knapp is doing the recording. Miller Walks is also here and will be asking questions, and Mr. Helbig's granddaughter is here as well. Now,
I heard all of that.
how did you? We'll start by how did you come to the Green?
Well, I'll tell you. In the first place, at that time I was dissatisfied and working at Light Torpedo Boat Company. At that time I was a machinist, and then I saw that there was an opportunity, if I talked with the superintendent, of being put up in the drafting room so that I could put some of the ideas that I had learned from being setting up their machinery and so forth, or cutting, that probably I could save the company money with the design of some of those. Well, he bought the idea and he made it possible for me to do that.
Was this in Bridgeport on Seaview Avenue?
It was.
Was Lake located on Seaview Avenue in Bridgeport?
Yes, at the end of Seaview Avenue.
Okay.
So, at that time, I was transferred up into that department, and while I did learn, I found out that it wasn't all that it seemed to be, because I was in sort of a mood of analyzing the people as I walked up the aisle for more supplies, and I saw some of the people that were much better educated than I, who had probably spent most of their life doing what they were doing, but their lives were probably were affected by the close work that they had to do. And because I saw one fellow that had thick glasses, not only that, but he had to use a magnifying glass too. So I tried it over and I decided that it wasn't for me. So it happened that my brother-in-law was in business in Milford. And for that reason he told me to give up that lake business where I was, but come to work for him. Because it was, he was rather short of help. And it's the funny thing, the way that things happened. This Sherman, the fellow that owned the corner store, he came over, he says, Mr. Muller, he says, I have a store, he says, I think you could be well interested in and make money in it. He says, at the present time, I don't believe it's being run properly, but he says, I think with good business-like methods, it would probably be okay. So my brother-in-law says, well, he says, thanks for the opportunity, but he says, I can't take it because I got my head pulled out. So he says, I'll take it. So he says, well, it seems strange to him to think that a young fellow like me could jump into a thing like that. I was only 20 years old at the time.
This was what year? Do you remember the year?
1920.
1920.
Yep. And so, sure enough, I went to work for him. And while I was working for him, this offer came, and I said, I take it. I only had about 2 weeks of experience as a butcher. I didn't, of course, you can't learn much in 2 weeks. But my father had been in the butcher business for a long time, and I was never interested in it at that time. But of course, the picture changed, and of course, when I went over there, he graciously came over every day to help me over the rough spots and tell me more about how to do this and how to do that. Well, fortunately, this was sort of a virgin territory, and either they had other places to go, but they had to go further away for them, or they could come to me. Well, it shows that they came to me, and so evidently that was the start, and from that time on I prospered.
Grandpa, what about when you said you were coming to Paradise Green? What did they tell you in Bridgeport about Paradise Green?
Paradise Green? What about it?
Remember when you told me that they said it was way out in the country?
I don't care. Don't talk too loud now.
Remember when you were telling me about coming to Paradise Green?
Yeah.
And what they said about coming out of Bridgeport?
Oh, I tell you, it happened that my brother had the same name as me, of course, and it was called Helbig's Market. Well, he was a little bit, well, I don't know whether he was jealous or not, but he didn't want the name of Helbigs on the structure. So I thought the thing all over, and I thought I'd still use the name, but I'd preface it with Carl A. Helbig's Market. And that seemed to satisfy him. So I got started in that way.
At one time you told me that they told you when you were going to come to Paradise Green not to come to Paradise Green because it was way out in the country.
Oh yeah, it really was in the country at that time, because across the street where the gasoline station is now, where Gleason used to be, it was just a lot. And one day a stone wall was in front of us, a brook there in front too. And one day I saw a deer being chased by dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And he jumped across the street and he went down to Lombard Park.
Mm-hmm.
See?
And did they tell you that you wouldn't do any good because it was out in the country?
Yeah. It didn't bother me, it was out in the country. Max told me, that is my brother, he told me that I could have a prosperous business if I had 400 customers. Well, it didn't seem like so much to me. I was optimistic. 400 customers is a lot of them. So I started to offer some things a little bit different. And at that time, the people depended upon Mr. Johnson. He used to have a horse and a wagon, and he'd carry around his meat and ring a bell and have the people come outside and they'd select what they wanted, and he'd give it to them. And of course, it was much better if they could come to a store, and especially when I began to advertise it was free delivery. So when I had free delivery and vegetables and all of that, and then one of the things came along, so there was no inventions that were possible. I was the first one to receive frosted foods in Stratford, and because of that, it was a novelty, of course, for people, because they were all against anything frozen before then. But that changed it, because they found out that the fruits and the vegetables were very good. So it helped in a sense. But then, of course, I began to realize as the summer came along, I needed refrigeration.
When you started, did you use ice for refrigeration rather than electric?
Yep.
Did Webb's deliver, or who did?
Yeah, that was brought, and every time that they would set up a pulley and a hook for the ice cakes, and they'd poke them up in the back, and they'd push them in, and they loaded as much as they could. And of course, I said to him one time, the Iceman, I said, it seems to me I use so much ice that I ought to get it cheaper. Well, he says, you know, last year, he says, we didn't have a very good year for ice. But I says, well, it happens this year, we had a record cold. So I says, how about that? I says, ice come down? He says, no. He says, we had to hire more help to handle it. It was so heavy. So, I don't know. As I think back, one thing sort of leads into another. But there were experiences that I had, and I thought I was smart at the time, but I found out that I was not. And I had a series of break-ins on the store. It was more or less in the country, and it was possible for people to break in without being detected. So they broke the glass in the back door, and what paid me more than anything else was the fact that I had received a new barrel of pickles. Dill pickles. I got the big 52-gallon barrel.
Ah, yes.
And
That's a full barrel.
Silver Lake or something.
Yeah.
And so when I broke the back door glass, they pushed the things out of the way, and they pushed a new roll of linen that I got in right into the pickles.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was an awful mess.
Yeah.
And so the cops told me after that I better leave a light. I said, if I leave a light, the fellow will know just where to go. Well, he said, we'll also have a better chance to detect him.
Was this Chief Nichols talking to you?
Yeah. Well, I said, that may be all well. I'll try it. I tried it. He broke in again. And this time I had bought a new register, cash register. And it was nice, sparkling new. And I had my nephew was working for me because at that time I didn't feel very good and he was taking my place. But he locked up all of the money in the register and he turned the key and he thought he had a regular safe there. When a fellow came in, he couldn't open the register very well, so he took a meat cleaver and he worked with that, and he did kind of a lot of havoc on the register, but he also cut himself pretty good. Well, they eventually found out who the fellow was, and they caught him, but he didn't have anything to give back or anything. And I couldn't see much sense of putting him in jail for something that he had done. He was the old fellow was tempted to whatnot. So anyway, I didn't pay for charges against him. So then I went over. I found out that a dog was probably a good protection for me in that place. So I went over to a fellow that's a veterinary on John Street there, and I told him I wanted a dog and I wanted it for that purpose, and I says I'd like to get us anything that will bite at anything that moves. So he gave me a nice focused, strong dog. It was an Italian bull, he said, with short hair and medium size but strong looking. Well, that part was all right until the kids used to go by and they saw him chained up to the doghouse that they had in back there, and he used to shake sticks and things like that out, and it made him furious. Well, one time there was one of the girls that did that, but he busted loose. He broke the collar, and down the street he went after the girl. Well, he finally caught up with her, of course, and he grabbed a hold of her skirt. He was perfectly satisfied with standing there and shaking the skirt. So his mother called me up, and she says, Mr. Helbig, yes? I says, my daughter just came home, And she says, you've got a vicious dog there. And he attacked my daughter. Oh, I said, I'm surprised. I says, I had him chained up and everything else. Well, she says, whether he was chained or not, he was loose enough to catch my daughter. And I said, did he hurt her? No, but he scared her. And so, well, anyway, the outcome of it was, I thought I'd got to get rid of the dog. So in the meantime, it was a female and she had some puppies. And so I had gotten rid of most of the puppies and I kept one of them myself. So I took the mother in and I put her in the store and I put the puppy on a chain. And she came, the dog catcher came, he says, I understand you have a dog there. I said, yes. You walked around, I said, there he is. He says, well, that's only a puppy. I said, yes, but I says, it's a very nice puppy. See? Well, what I heard is he's vicious. So he says, is he licensed? I says, not yet. Well, he says, when he gets old enough, he's got to be licensed and must always keep him on a chain. I said, all right. So I took the dog back to Dr. Ashcroft, I think it was, and I told him the dog was very good, but I just didn't want it anymore. He was welcome to it, so I brought it back. So I kept the other one in, and he turned out to be a clumsy little mutt. He couldn't get out of his own way, so that was sad.
Beautiful.
So,
the other stores at the Green.
yeah.
Tell us what you remember.
Well,
Let's talk about Mr. Wells, Seymour Wells.
Yes, the Seymour Wells. Well, then there was the First National. He was right next to me.
Uh-huh.
And there was, as I say, the Valancourts and so forth. She had a dry goods store and whatnot, but her brother-in-law, maybe it's her brother, I don't know.
Ben Clow?
Huh?
Ben Clow?
Yeah, Ben Clow.
That's her brother.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think so, because there was a resemblance there.
Yeah.
And anyway, he started a hardware department in her store. Well, it turned out that pretty well he could see the possibilities for a hardware store. So I had a big lot at that time. I had bought it because I thought I needed it for protection from the new landlord I got, who happened to be an aggressive fellow. That was George, and he told me that the rent that I was paying would go up at the end of the month.
What was his name? Your landlord?
I think it was Larry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not positive, but I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I thought I'd better look around for a job, for a lot, in case that he did begin to put the thing up to where I thought it was too much. So what happened, there was this lot that it was 160 feet deep, and I forget exactly how wide. It was plenty wide for 2 stores and a driveway. So this Benny, when he saw that I had this lot, you know, the half of it, he wanted to buy half of it, and I says I'd sell it to him, but he'd have to agree that we leave a driveway so that we could have access to the back of it. And I says the driveway should be wide enough to be practical for the trucks that would probably be using it. So he was agreeable, and it went back for so far, and then that's as far as it went for him, but it went all the way back for me. So he had a sort of an L-shaped piece. Eventually he decided that he would like to get rid of that L shape because he thought he might like to take and put that right through to the other street, to Plymouth Street. And so he told me he'd like to buy it. I said, I haven't any idea what it's worth. Well, he says it was a piece like that, and another store, another place I know of, says it was $700. I said, it's okay with me. So he paid me $700, and I was satisfied, and he was satisfied. In the meantime, we had everything done legally. You know, we had a lawyer take care of everything. So he asked a lot of questions that I didn't think about, but eventually we got the thing straightened out. So that was that. Oh, he asked me about how much, what the lot cost. Well, I tell you, I says the lot that I had in the beginning, all the costs that I had, when I figured them out, divided by the cost, I found out it was so much a foot. So I says, you pay me that. I don't want any profit. But I says, I would. That would help me to put up my own store. See? So he did that, and he put up a brick building that he has, and I put up the one that the Paradise Pizza is there now.
Oh, question. Before the brick building, for a couple years, someone had a miniature golf course there. Was that? Did you own it then?
They came to me and they asked permission for it, and I thought I'd be paid for it, but I never got a cent for it.
Is that right?
And before that, they had one of these signs. Was Murphy or somebody did outside advertising? Well, I never got anything for that either. So far as getting any benefits from those things was concerned, I didn't.
I see.
So that's that.
Who else was in the green at the time? Who else had a store up there? Were there very many stores?
No.
In 1920, when you came there, were there very many stores?
There weren't very many stores at that time.
What was there?
Huh?
What was there?
Well, as I can remember, I think Roberts was there as a drugstore, and then across the street on Wilcoxson Avenue corner was another fellow that was a druggist, and he had a lease for 20 years, and I thought that was wonderful. I wish that I had it, but I didn't. So anyway, he had the protector for 20 years. Well, you know, it's surprising how fast 20 years can go by. Yep, it really is. So I don't know.
Was Huntington Road a main street?
Huh?
Huntington Road. Was Huntington Road a main street?
On Main Street?
Huntington Road, was it very big?
Oh, Huntington Road was a dirt road too. It wasn't big. It wasn't populated like it is now.
Were there very many houses in this neighborhood?
The what?
Were there very many houses in this neighborhood?
Not very many, no. There was, I used to be able to sit on there where Miller is and look down at the pond there. It was very nice. It was nice and clear. But the first thing was, we got a little bit of prosperity after Franklin Roosevelt got in, and he found out that they weren't suffering from anything, he said, for the lack of credit. And so when he made credit available, and he divided the gold from $20 an ounce to $35 an ounce, and there was more loose money around that people could borrow and buy and build. At that time, the going rate for mortgages was 6%, which doesn't seem like too much now, but it did seem as though it was plenty at that time.
When, before the houses were built, you say you could see Brewster's Pond from here on Wilcoxson Avenue. At that time, was the ice house still there? Was Brewsters Ice House still at the pond? Or
Was the what?
Brewsters Ice House, or had that gone? Do you remember the ice house?
Yes, what houses went up were nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so that part of it was good.
What about the ice house?
Huh?
Was there an ice house there? Ice
Ice.
house.
And not only up at Peck's Pond there.
Okay, Brewsters had been torn down before you came here then.
That's the only one that I know of.
When did you move into this home?
Huh?
When did you move into this home? Your home here?
Oh, I bought that home in 1923 because I becoming engaged, and I had made plans for a vacation in Nova Scotia, and I also, the fellow who was living here with his family was the builder of it, and I told him that I would be coming back a certain date, almost I don't know how long it was, but as long as he got out about a month before I was going to come back, it would give me a chance to put in the furniture that I had ordered and to get things ready for it. So when we came back, another interesting thing to me was after I had bought the house, the first thing I noticed is they were digging a cellar right next to it. Well, I was perturbed, of course, so I said to the fellow, I'd known that you were going to put a house up there, I wouldn't have bought the place. He says, well, I'm sorry. He says, there's more land here, I could build someplace else. Well, he says, I wish I would. Well, he says, it'll cost you, money for me to put it back into shape and whatnot. So, at that time, I think it was either $600 or $900 that I bought the lot for. And the thing is going so crazy now that a woman came here and she offered me $60,000 for the lot. And of course, I told her the house to me was no good without the lot because it was nice and wide. Miller has it, one that he has kept, and the two of them together makes a space that is good.
Right.
It's very good. That's the reason. So, Miller, you get a little information too.
Do I have some information?
Well, that
I know that you've been a very good neighbor. I've enjoyed being your neighbor.
When did you?
I came here in '42, January.
When's your house built?
I remember.
We only have a rough idea. I think around
your family growing up.
26 or something. 19. Beg pardon?
I remember all of your family growing
Yeah,
up.
right.
Who built this house? Who built this house?
Oh, I could tell you about it. I know very well who built it. He's a builder. He built several of them up in other places too.
I'll think about it later.
Yeah. He built the house and he eventually lived in off a corner of Dale Drive. It was, I'll think of it in a minute. I should remember.
Can't remember everything.
Earlier on, I mentioned Mr. Lobdell, Ike Lobdell.
Yeah.
What do you remember of him?
Well, I can remember him. He was a hard-working, elderly man when I knew him. And he'd ask me in the springtime if I could use any squashers, as they called them. And so I can remember him bringing down vegetables, lettuce, and all of those things with a wheelbarrow. And he walked all the way from that Pleasant View Avenue, corner of Huntington Road there, all the way to my place, and it never seemed to bother him at all. And he told me, he says, when you grow things, he says, always remember, he says, it isn't always the outside rain that does so much good, but the water comes up from the bottom too. He says, that helps. So, he says, you look at the big stones or something, you pick one up and you'll able to see, even in dry weather, the bottom of it is moist. See? So I didn't pay as much attention to those things in those years as I should have.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I'd be called upon for my memory for those things.
Well, for a man that's
Yeah.
88 and 1/2, you have a very good memory.
Next, very close to your store was the store that had the barber and the shoemaker. Mike the barber,
Yeah.
and then I've forgotten who the shoemaker was.
I did a little funny part of my course. When I built the new store, Hannibal is the one. He was not only a neighbor, but Sam Hannibal was the owner of a big construction business. He built several of the large, places. Well, Walter was the son, and he used to come to the store after closing it, and we'd sit and talk. And he'd like to talk to me, and I liked to talk to him. So eventually, it worked out well, because I found out that he would be the one to build my place, and he impressed me that the first cost was never the least cost. And he told me that quality entered into it for many years from now. He said, you'll appreciate it. And so, well, the upshot was that when I went to the bank and I wanted to I went to a architect first, and he made plans for a store for me. And so I took it down to the bank, and they told me it was much too pretentious for Paradise Green. So I tried very much. I didn't know much about how to get a loan or anything else, but it looked as though I couldn't. So I cashed in the endowment policy that I had to get the cash, and I was open with Walter. I told him how much money I had and how much he estimated it would cost or whatnot. Well, he says, okay, Bridge, that's all right. He says, I'll take a second mortgage on it. I said, well, that's fine. So sure enough, he says, I won't push you for the second mortgage here. So I said, oh. So that's how we were able to finance the building of that place. But we changed the front somewhat, and it wasn't any more of that limestone pretentious thing. So I got started, and I worked hard, of course, and anybody in a small business of their own has to be a credit manager, and it has to be everything else in order to be bound to make all decisions.
Did you keep credit accounts for your customers during the Depression?
Yeah.
Your granddaughter has just shown me pictures of the interior of your store as it was.
Yeah.
Let's do that book if you want to have some old pictures.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of a fellow named Doc Brady?
No, I'm not sure that no, Duck Brady?
No, it wasn't that.
Oh, Doc Brady. Where does he actually go?
Well, one time you told me about They used to go hunting with him.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute, that was, Eli Vanderhoff I went hunting with. He lived up on Highland Avenue. And that's the first place, the only place I got drunk. It was in the winter time, and we had to come back, and it was cold outside. And of course, his house had a nice cellar. You walked right in there instead of walking upstairs. Well, after we got in there in a while, I felt good. He says, "Do you like wine?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so." Well, he says, "What kind do you like? Sweet wine or sour wine?" I says, "I don't know." Well, he says, he gave me some sweet wine. Tasted pretty good. He says, "How do you like that?" I says, "Tasted pretty good." He says, "I like this wine. There's the other one better." He says, "You try this one."
Is this wine that he had made?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I tried that one. But by the time I walked out and I opened the door, and it was cool outside, but it was warm inside, my feet didn't seem to hit the ground properly. And I said, "Gee," I said, "I can't be drunk." Well, I evidently was, but I had parked the car on the hill, you know, that Highland Avenue,
Yes.
I think it was. And I came down off of that, and I got home. When I got home, of course, I was hungry. And my wife, Hilda, had a large portion of spare ribs and sauerkraut. At that time, I had a wonderfully good appetite. Well, after everything, I tore into them. And I says, "Well, I think I'll take a nap." "Oh, no." She says, "Not after that fullness that you ate." She says, "No." She says, "I tell you, we had a load of manure come over Miller's lot." And I says, but she says, "Half of it is ours." So I said, she says, "You get the wagon," and she says, "Take a shovel, and you get our share, and leave his." So I walked down, and I staggered down the street down there, the lot, you know. You pardon me for this, but I said, "This is the last load of shit I'm going to do." Well, that was a well-earned sleep.
I'll bet. Did you...
Oh, yeah. I knew a doctor that I made a radio for. He was a doctor over, Dr. Bragoa was his name. And I never knew whether this came, was his own composition, or whether he had copied it. But I thought it was wonderful.
This is it's a poem on the hunter's camp.
Yeah?
Where did you hunt, by the way? Was it in Stratford?
No, he lived in Devon.
I see.
On Naugatuck Avenue.
Uh-huh.
He had an office there.
Oh, the sense of freedom that sweeps through the hunter's breast when the tramp of the day is over and he dreamily lies at rest in the glow of the blazing campfire that stabs at the robe of night and points at the gathering shadows with fingers of cherry light. That's beautiful. This is quite a guy.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Bragoa. B-R-A-G-A-W. And he was the physician, the family physician that my sister and her husband had when they lived on Wilma Street in Devon. Probably used up your
I
tape.
don't know if he wrote them or copied them from somewhere.
I see.
I happen to think that the fellow probably did them himself, but we're just writing.
Yeah.
Yes, who did you hunt with?
Well,
You were 16.
let's see, I said I started when I was 16 in hunting. It was allowable to be 16 at that time to
Yes.
be a legal hunter. So it happened that his friend, Frank Stradke, was a tool maker at Crane Company in Bridgeport, and he held a responsible position in American Trooper Stamping, which is now it's changed to Carpenter Steel, I guess it's called now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was night hunting, and because they would hunt after they had done their day's work.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to be efficient and whatnot, they had sent down to the south for a coon dog. So the coon dog came, and they found out how much to feed him in this way. They would give him more than what he could eat normally, and what he could eat and were satisfied with, that was the amount of his ration in the future. So anyway, we'd go out and I particularly remember the Pine Rock Park area where we went lots of time. And of course, a coon dog will chase not only raccoons, but if a skunk gets in the way, he'll get after him too.
Yeah.
So they're like two gladiators looking at each other and the skunk has got his tail straight up in the air and he's looking at him, and the other dog is dancing around him. He's looking for a chance. Well, anyway, lots of times the dog lost. And of course, when the dog lost, that's when we had to walk home from Pine Rock Park. We always tried to get home, get on the car before anything like that happened. Because
Get on the car. Did you take the trolley?
No, we didn't have a car.
You took the trolley?
We took the trolley.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, that is when I started hunting. And I liked it because it was exciting. It was in the nighttime in the country. The stars are so bright in cold weather, and the sounds are so sharp. My ears were good then. And so when we hear this dog finally bark at us, we used to call it, we figured he had to cool up the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd go to that place, and that's when I was introduced to light irons, the kind that the fellas used to go up the telephone pole.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, I had never put them on before, so I didn't know much about it, but I figured if they could use it, so could I. So I put them on, and frankly, the other fellow was a little bit doubtful whether there was anything up there. But sure enough, I went up, and I saw two shiny, bright eyes. And of course I had a 22. I thought I was well armed. I took a crack at it, but he stood there and looked at me. He didn't know. So I shot again. Nope, I must have been shaking. So anyway, Mike says, maybe you're shooting at the stars. I says, no. Well, how he ever got up the tree, I don't know. He shitted up the tree, he got past me. And so, sure enough, he had a big, heavy pistol. And when he shot, he didn't miss. Well, boom, I saw the coon hit the ground. Well, he hit the ground on his back. And I said, well, the bullet didn't kill him. The floor certainly did. No way. So the dogs held off, and they tried not to jump in because he'd rake their belly,
Oh, coons are mean. Yes.
So sure enough, well, we eventually got the coon. and it was 18 pounds. And Christ, like his wife, was Hungarian, and it didn't matter to her whether it was a coon or whether it was a cow or anything else. She could cook it.
Sure.
And she did, and she did a darn good job. And it tasted very nice. I was invited to that supper when they had it. But anyway, that's the introduction to that kind of hunting.
Yes.
Night kind.
Yeah.
You should ask him about the trolley. He told me something about an accident, the trolley.
Schultz was that fellow's name that built the house. Elgot Schultz or his brother, that built the house. Schultz.
Built your house?
But this house, right?
This house.
Yeah.
He's the man who built my parents' house up on
I
Shepherd
wouldn't
Street.
be surprised, but what he was the one that put an addition on your house.
How about the original house? How many years after you moved in here?
I don't remember how many years, but I realized that they made it bigger. Whether they made it better or more.
We understand it went through 3 editions after.
You had, like the fellow next door, his family grew, so he had to add to his house.
Right.
Mr. Helbig, do you remember any of the policemen on the beat? They used to keep a policeman here at the Green.
They did. I think Garrity was one of the fellows.
Uh-huh.
I'm not
Okay.
positive. I know they had traffic policemen rather than traffic lights
Yes.
in those early days.
Yes.
And down the center especially. It's not as much as I can remember now.
You mentioned taking the trolley car up to Pine Rock Park to go hunting.
Yeah.
That was very early because I think it was 1926 when they stopped running up there.
Yeah.
What do you remember about using the trolley for transportation in general?
Well,
You must have used
I
it to
can
go over
remember,
town.
Of course, that they received their power from the single wire that they had. At the end of the run that they made, they would have to pull that down, the pole down, and fit it in the back end so the car could go the other way. I remember that.
Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did the trolley go?
Well, the trolley went up as far up the road. It went past the. It went up to one of the places up there. I don't know which one, but I can remember when it made a run over the, and it fell over. It tipped over, and a lot of people got hurt.
When was that?
Tex Pond.
When was that? In the 20s?
I guess I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know.
Did it come from Bridgeport? Did it come from Bridgeport?
Yeah, the trolleys, lots of them came from Bridgeport, and they stopped on the way to the Green, and then they went on further.
Remember one time you were telling me they had a fire, something to do with the fire engine in the trolley in Stratford? They had to push with the horses or something, they had a fire. See if you can remember back to that story you were telling me.
Well, if I told you a story, it was true at that time, but
Yeah, I know.
still is. But
Apparently there were a lot of people on the trolley car.
there were, yeah. Well, that was the one that tipped over at that trestle.
Talk about that a little bit.
That's probably the firemen went up there to do rescue work.
Talk about that. Was the new line? It was the first day of the new line?
But
Did you say that was the first day of the new line? They were just trying it out?
no, that was the first day that they went across that place. They've been trying to analyze what caused it in the meantime, but I think they came up with a solution that the foundation wasn't good enough, for the weight that was put on it at the time that when it goes there.
Where'd it go across? Across where?
Peck's Pond, up there where, at the end of where the streets come together, you know.
I'd like to talk a little more about the store and what you sold in the store. For
Well,
canned goods, SS Purse. You were the SS Purse person, as I remember.
I'll tell you, the only one of the interesting things I thought was, at that time I thought was interesting, was that I gradually put in, besides meat, I found out that the White Rose line, the Seymour Brothers, was a good line of fruits and canned vegetables and so forth.
White Rose.
So I built a lot of shelves, and we stocked up that. Holiday Mavis was the salesman for them. Well, anyway, as time went by, I wanted to sell Wonder Bread, because Wonder Bread seemed to be the kind that everybody was buying. And all the time that they asked me, especially when I had delivery, if I sent a loaf or 2 loaves of bread along. So I kept trotting over to next door and buying it from him, paying him the retail price. And I made nothing for myself. So I had some relations with Baldwin, who was a lawyer at that time. They traded with me.
Oh, Ray Baldwin?
Yeah. They lived up on Windsor Avenue. And when he came in one day, he bought several things, whatnot. And I said, I have a little question for you. I said, I'd like to know if I can sell anything besides what I have in the store at the present time. Well, he says there's a question, a legal question. He says what was the intent of this lease that you have? Well, I says I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Well, he says I'll think it over. So I says, how much do I owe you? Well, whatever it was that he bought, that was how much.
Okay. Yeah. You paid him in groceries.
Yeah. So anyway, it eventually turned out that I could sell the Wonder Bread too, and the fellow came, he wasn't a high dander because I was selling Wonder Bread, not buying it from him anymore. So,
who was that? Was that
Wonder Bread? Yeah.
No.
what store was that?
It was right next door to me. It was First National.
Oh, the First National.
Yeah. Oh, it might have been Davy Brothers. It was Davy Brothers.
Oh.
I think was there before First National. First National, I think, was there later. I think it was Davy
And
Brothers.
where did you buy your meats? How did you get your meats?
Well, that's an interesting story too. Woodhull, John R. Woodhull, was the main supplier of meat, veal, lamb, beef, poultry, and so forth. And so I didn't have any credit or anything else, but I went to him after I had bought the place. I says, Mr. Woodhull? He says, yes. He says, my name is Helbig. I says, you know my brother and you know my father. But I says, it happens that I have bought the store that Conway was running. But I says, what I would actually need is a week's credit. He says, a week's credit will get me started. He says, what do you know about pricing? I said, I know I gotta charge more than I get for it. Well, he says, that isn't a complete answer. He says, if you charge too much, try to make too much, you lose a customer. If you don't charge enough, you lose money. He says, you'll remember that and keep it in mind.
Uh-huh.
He says, I'll give you a week's credit.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I started.
Was he located, was he in Bridgeport, or
No,
where?
he was on Water Street.
On Water Street.
Water Street, yep.
Most of the provision houses were there, weren't they, on Water Street?
Water Street, there was, at that time, there was Morrison Company, and Carnegie Packing Company, and Swifter Company, and there may have been somebody else, but I remember those. They were the major ones.
Did they deliver to the store?
Yes, they delivered to the store.
Uh-huh.
When did you switch from ice to refrigeration for your frozen foods?
For the frozen food?
Yeah.
Well, I turned around at the time I tried to get that agency to see if I could buy a chest from them too. And they said yes, it would cost me so much a month or so for that. And at the end of a certain length of time, they would allow me, you know, some of the money that I had paid in rent. So that is the way that I kept the frozen foods in the beginning. And they were good, and they had little compartments and cans and whatnot, so you could put peas and know that they were all peas in there, and you could pull up another one of those, peaches and things like that. And of course...
Do you remember the year when you started with the frozen food?
Not exactly, no. I should have remembered, but I don't.
That's all right.
Did
A
you
lot of things I don't
did you
remember.
ever prepare any of your own produce? Did you prepare any of your own produce? Did you make sauerkraut, pickles? You must have corned
no,
beef. Did you
not
corn your
that.
own beef?
Only the things like sausage.
You did make sausage.
Yeah, sausage. And
Did
I
you
made
corn your beef?
the sausage and the meat and the links? Both.
I see.
Yeah. Only thing I could make it better now than I could make it now. But I can't eat any salt now. That maybe that makes a difference.
Oh, gee.
Did you corn your beef?
Huh?
Did you corn your beef?
Yes, I did. I had, I found out that the proper way to do a good job and not to fool around was to not be like some of the fellas, not adding enough salt to bloat a potato. That was not enough because that changed the density, but it was better to have a salinometer that, and it went from nothing to 100. And went from, I found out that 70 was the right amount when it got there. What do you put it in? You stirred it and stirred it and stirred it. And you put a small amount of saltpeter in, because if you didn't put the saltpeter in, it didn't have the color.
Right. It would turn gray if you didn't put the saltpeter
it
in.
looked too gray.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was made.
I know this man knows how to sharpen a knife.
Okay.
I know how you know how to sharpen a knife,
Oh.
a butcher knife, because I brought a bunch of them over one time.
Oh, yeah. I can sharpen knives all right. I made a sharpener for that.
Yeah. Well, he has quite a nice little workshop down in the basement, which comes from his early factory jobs, experience, and so on. He's a very inventive man when it comes to things mechanical.
In looking at the inside of your store, I'm reminded that you were still operating in the 1950s.
Yes. And
How long did you run it?
I retired in 1951.
1951.
Yeah.
So these pictures show it in its last year.
How much money did you lose during the Depression by giving credit?
Well, I lost quite a bit, and I thought I would be smart and tell everybody that they'd get a discount if they paid their bill. But they weren't interested in a discount. So I finally had to cross off everything. And how much I lost, I said, that's gone. I can't get it back. No use. But, of course, nowadays, they do retailing and so entirely differently than they did in those days. And they had, one of the things that was a big help was a kind of a plastic film that they had now. That could wrap things up and they wouldn't dry out. And you could make attractive displays and so forth. But right now it's an uphill job for anybody to try to buck the big fellas. Because they have the advantages of advertising, couponing, and so forth.
Mass buying.
So, I realized that I was in business about the best time for it.
I have a question. Of your customers in the Paradise Green area, how many bought Prime? How many bought Choice? How many bought the lower grades?
No, nobody wanted the lower grade. If you could find some good, that was right next to Choice, it was fine. But if you bought Choice, they objected to the fat that was on there. And if you cut it off so that the fat off, so they didn't object to it. It cost the butcher so much. And he paid for it, but he didn't get it back.
So you lost either way.
You had to be as smart as you could and pick it out the meat. Yeah. I know it's
another question. For things like chicken, did local farmers supply you with birds?
No. Chickens is something I always got from wholesale houses.
I see.
I was more assured of quality, and I knew exactly that I could see what they were before I bought them. I opened up the boxes and they'd let me see. And also on the pork pies and things of that sort. And on calves, I'd have a chance to pick out my own calves.
Sure.
And of course, if and lots of times I'd have to skin them myself after I bought them. And of course, you had to be careful about that, because if you cut through in any place, the fat collector would notice that and they would penalize you for that cut. So you had to be on your toes lots of times.
So you would go over to Water Street
Yeah.
and place an order, and then they would deliver it, is that it?
Yes, that's right. They would deliver. Yeah.
You mentioned dealing with town manager Reed earlier.
Yeah.
Do you remember the other people down at Town Hall? Any of them?
Well,
Do you remember Hunter?
Don Samus was there.
Yes. I'm just wondering what you remember about Don.
Well, I remember that the town hall used to be the jail too. Yeah, and then they had they changed that, and they made a regular place. But that's about all, I guess. I can remember that.
Okay, do you have any more questions that we
No.
want to
No,
pry out of this gentleman?
I do. I want to
okay, good. All right.
Good.
Tell me about when you were a little boy and the circus used to come to town.
Oh,
and
in-
Wentfield.
In Bridgeport? Did he grow up in Bridgeport?
Well, when I was a little boy and I used to come to town, yeah.
P.T. Barnum.
Oh, yes. That was always interesting. I looked forward to it because they have a wonderful parade and everybody would go to it on Main Street in Bridgeport. And their wagons would go through and their clowns would go along, and it was very colorful. And in those days, when the circus was really held, they'd have the side shows that you'd go past before you got to the main entrance to the circus itself. And they would have all kinds of hoochie-coochie girls and all of that stuff. So you had quite a lot of things to remember about those days.
How old were you when you remember the circus? How old were you when you used to go to the circus?
How old was I? Well, it was just before I was 18. I remember that because that's when I got off the motorcycle. And I was coming home one night, and it started to rain, and the trolley tracks I figured were slippery. So I looked for a place where I could sort of turn into a wooden slide, but I didn't find it. So the motorcycle went down underneath me, and it slid down the street. I could see it, yeah. But I didn't get hurt. But that, as I recall, that was the time we went. It might have been somewhat before 1918. I don't know exactly.
The people of Bridgeport got to see lots of circus, of course, in those days, because the winter quarters were here until 1923, as I remember.
Out at the end of State Street.
Yes.
At the end there. They used to, and they had the elephants, and they used to put up the tents and everything. They pulled out the ropes and put them up.
And you used to go watch that? Yeah.
Well, no, not too much. I don't remember, but I know they told me that that's what happened.
Well, I think we've covered pretty well the Paradise Green in your period, Mr. Helbig.